Welcome to In a World with Real Media. I'm your host, Brad Burrow. In this podcast, we'll dive into the lives of the most successful people in business. We'll learn how they overcame adversity, took advantage of opportunities, and learned from their experiences. Learn from our experts, get inspired, then go live your story. It's In a World with Real Media. Hello and welcome to In a World with Real Media. I'm your host, Brad Burrow, and today, I've been looking forward to today. This is really fun. I get to have Joel Goldberg on the podcast, and we've been working together for a while, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but we've done some things in the past, and anybody out there that knows me knows that we're a big baseball family, and we have lots of friends, former players and stuff, and follow the team very closely. So this is a very special podcast for me. Joel, thanks for being on. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's good to be with you, Brad. And, you think about the way business evolves, the world evolves. Whenever you and I started doing some stuff together, and I don't remember when that started or what it was. I could list off something.
I can tell you what it was.
I was wondering if you would know, but my point, then you'll refresh my memory, is we weren't doing podcasts back then, and you didn't have a podcast studio back then. So it's just a reminder that, however long it's been, the world changes quickly. What was it?
It was Real Talk with Real Media. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So you were the host.
Yeah.
And the idea was Scott Havens. And
I thought there might have even been something before that. Maybe not. I mean, we'd met.
Well, probably before that.
We had met before that. And then there have been just little things along the way that we've done, that and some others. And so those were sort of versions of podcasting, right? But that's what I love about this. And if we sit down again in 10 years, it won't be on a podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know what it'll be.
Yeah, who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
I don't know.
It'll be the virtual you and the virtual me, maybe.
Right. We'll be kicking back, and the Brad and Joel bots will be doing their thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember the Real Talk thing. That was fun.
It was fun.
And we had if I remember right, we had a whole kind of day where we just brought people in.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how interviewing people wears you out. Are you worn out after doing that for a long time?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily aware that I am. I've actually come to realize that lately, that if it's go time, it's go time. And so what I've come to realize is that it takes a lot more out of me than I realize. Yeah. And probably everybody else gets that. I just don't think about it. You just go and do it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm generally a fairly extroverted person that likes to be introverted when it's all done, because you're constantly on. Even doing this right now takes a certain level of being on. I don't notice it. I'm not sitting there thinking, oh man, I got to dial things up right now.
Yeah, right.
It just is what you do if you know how to do it. But it still can take a toll, I guess,
Yeah.
And so that's part of the job of being some form of a performer. We're all performers, by the way,
right.
Like whether we're in front of a camera or not. We all have to do something to dial it up to get to where we want to go.
Right.
That's just part of what this is, and it's pretty fun too.
Yeah, I remember. So I get asked this all the time. It's like, can we record 8 podcasts in a day and then just start releasing them?
Good luck with that.
Oh my gosh. People, it's like you have no idea how you're going to feel after 2 or 3.
Right. I mean, my rule of thumb is I don't really want to do more than 2 in a day. And then every now and then I'll say, hey, I want to add this one in, and my assistant will say, that's 3. You shouldn't do that. And I'll say, I know I told you not 3. So when I get mad or frustrated, or it's not even that, but when I'm worn out and I want to blame someone, I'm going to have to blame me, because I'm the one that wants to cram them in. It just to go one after the next, and we like to batch them together. So to go one after the next, there just comes a certain point where there's diminishing returns.
Yeah, right. I agree. So I've prepared for our podcast today.
Well, that's more than I do, but no, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, but you probably have to, like one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I guess we could ask you right now, but like in a game, you're watching what's happening in the game, and you've got to be prepared at the end of the game to talk about key moments. Yeah. Are you taking notes? How are you doing that?
That's evolved over the years, and I think just the way that I'm wired and my personality, it will always evolve, because I'm always looking for a new way to do it better. And I don't even know if it's to do it better, just to stimulate my mind. And so, like last year, I started doing a lot of my notes and keeping track of them through ChatGPT, and just seeing if there were some common threads that I could check back to. What am I missing? Because,
really?
When you're doing so many games, it's like it just starts to blend together. What I have come to ultimately understand, no matter what technology we have and no matter what our preferences and our habits are, is that when you're paying attention, you generally have a better chance of telling the story.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do in this day and age. I'm knee deep in my phone like everybody else, and I go down a rabbit hole if something happens in the game, and I'm researching this, and then you miss that, and oh, by the way, you know, this person wants you to come and say hi in this section, and this person, which I've stopped doing a lot of that only because I used to want to go see everybody. With the pitch clock now, the pace of everything, you just can't afford to look away for too long. Oh, by the way, you know, I still have to do my in-game reports and ultimately be ready for the post-game show. I think that for me, and I look back to when I started in my career, I mean, I would just pages full of notes from every game, and I would never go back and use most of them because they didn't end up applying. The challenge and the fun of doing a live post-game show is that what you think is the storyline 2 hours ago may never see the light of day, and what you thought was going to be the storyline might have changed 1 minute before the show started. And so I think that like anything else in life, with repetition comes comfort.
Yeah.
And so yes, I'll jot some notes down. Yes, I'll hit some key bullet points or just some little things to remember. But I keep score of every game and have for most every game in my career from a baseball standpoint. And I do it now digitally, have for years, for about 9 years.
Like a box score?
A box score.
Is that right?
On my iPad. It's a PDF that I could draw over. And it's a weird looking box score or keeping score. It's weird. It's color coded. It's got all kinds of weird designations on it. But it's set up in a way that I know if I look at it, that I could do anything on a post-game show without having written down notes.
Yeah.
So I do have notes written down, like a key number, 20-game hitting streak, or first hit in 23 days, or 5 straight games scoring 3 runs or less.
Right.
Little things like that, and that's it as reference points. But then, because everything's so quickly and on the fly for a post-game show, because we don't know what's going to happen, if my producer says, hey, Quattrero or the manager's press conference or whatever's not ready yet, or they're just starting, we need to fill a little bit more time. Let's talk defense right here. I'm going to look down and I'm going to see every defensive play from the game that I at least thought was a good defensive play highlighted in blue with an Apple Pencil. And I just can look and be like, here's the 2nd inning, here's the 4th inning, here's the 7th inning. And then my partner, Jeff Montgomery, has his own system. And so we have this language that we speak together without even having to really say a whole lot.
Yeah.
And that's just the evolution of the note-taking, and it's a constant evolution.
So I want to see the PDF from the wild card game in 2014. What is?
I'd have to go back and look at that. I don't know that we were doing them yet on PDF. Yeah. I think we probably started right after that, maybe around 16 or something like that. But whatever that looked like, I'm sure that I have. It's somewhere in storage. I think I had like a physical scorecard that I'd been writing on. I don't know what I did. Once you get into extra innings, things get a little bit dicey with a scorecard too.
Where do you go?
Yeah, I remember more of where I was sitting at certain points of that game, which is never where people think, because when you're doing what I'm doing, you're usually somewhere in a stairwell or a hallway or something trying to get from point A to point B. So we never actually see those moments. We oftentimes, in the biggest of games like that, do not see those moments live. Oftentimes we see them live later or live on replay.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like just trying to get to places and stuff.
That's it. You're listening in your ear. You're watching monitors as you're walking by. But oftentimes I am talking about a key play that I never saw, even though I saw it and I'm aware of it and I know everything that happened. Oftentimes I'm not fully digesting the big picture of it, what it looks like, or I'm noticing something. I couldn't have possibly seen in transit.
Yeah. Are you on IFB that whole time? You walking through the stadium?
Yeah, I mean you're gonna hit certain spots of the stadium where you got blind spots and you can't hear anything. The good news in terms of a game is that wherever I'm walking in the stadium, they usually have the radio piped in with the TV, and so I can hear that going on. But I've always got my earpiece in, my IFB, and so I'm hearing everything wherever I'm going. And then if I get in and out of a bad blind spot or something that's blocked from the signal, I might miss a little bit. So there are pockets I miss that sometimes I have to guess, not really guess, but sometimes I wonder as I'm going from point A to point B, and I hear the crowd eruption, and I'm like, oh, that must have been let's see, we're on defense. Maybe there was an inning-ending double play. And then as soon as it clears, I'm able to find it out really quickly, either listening, seeing, or just pull out my phone and see what happened.
Now, are you hearing the director? Who are you hearing on IFB? I'm just
usually
curious.
Producer.
Producer, okay.
But
So you're not hearing call the shots and all that?
I don't hear anything unless, occasionally, so for those that are, listening and watching this, IFBs are your piece, and there's an all call.
Yeah, I just assume everybody knows about you, right?
Maybe they do, but there's an all call essentially for a producer or director in the truck to be able to send that message out to everyone. They generally try not to do that. The really good ones are very specific. Their buttons are labeled. This is Joel. This is Ryan. This is Monty. This is Rex. This is whatever. And so usually it's just me and the producer. If the director needs to jump in, he will. But generally, I'm not hearing from the director unless he feels like there's some kind of loss of communication between me and the producer, and he's trying to get in there to settle things down a little bit, give a little bit of direction.
Yeah.
So again, it's all a kind of a song and dance and a language of figuring out how to communicate in ways. Because here's the thing. The guys in the booth have a talkback button. They've got their headsets on. They can hit that talkback and talk to the truck without that going over our broadcast. We don't have that on our set, or because we're on camera all the time.
Right.
So sometimes you got to have a little bit of a look, or the second that we get in video and something's not working, I'm throwing my hands in the air like I'm waving down, someone to stop and help me with my car that's broken down. And you catch their attention because they're doing 10 things as well, and suddenly they realize, and then I'll hear in my ear, the guessing game begins. I'll start pointing at something, and meanwhile Monty's talking, and my producer will say, "Is the monitor out?" Shake my head, yes. Okay, now we know that we can't get too specific with the video. We'll keep it generic, or I'll tell you what's coming up on, if it's a very specific this play, well, I can't do that again. But if I know that he knows that the monitor's not working, and oh, by the way, someone's down on the ground underneath the camera trying to change a cable, and I mean, this is just the stuff that happens. And you've been through it before, so I just need them to know that I may not be reading what's on the monitor because I can't see it.
Yeah.
So now he's saying, here's the Witt diving play. Caglione defense, Vinny home run, and you just start to react that way. So that's just sort of. It's not fun, but it is fun. It's kind of a rush.
Keeps you on your toes.
Keeps you on your toes, and you've been there before, and you just understand that. And that's the biggest thing, Brad, is people want to know, how many hours does it take a day to prepare? So much of the preparation is lifetime's worth of preparation. Yeah. It's the repetition. It's failing in those moments before. It's understanding that as we're starting a show, I think it was in Minnesota this year, and the music starts, and you have about 30 seconds of scenics, and maybe it's the Minneapolis skyline, and then Target Field, and then Bobby Witt Jr. warming up, and Michael Garcia in the batting cage, and I know all that's coming in advance, and I'm going to do all of that and set the stage and welcome in Target Field, and Joel Goldberg alongside of Rex Hudler in this day. Well, I start talking first words. Again, we're not seen, so I've got some at least ability to do my crazy hand waving and flag them down that something's not working. I didn't need to flag them down in this one because I can't hear myself in the microphone. Mic's not working. Well, I catch the audio guy's attention, local guy from the Minnesota crew, and he could see the panic in my eyes. And the panic isn't that I'm so much freaked out. It's my panic of making him know that I need your help.
No problem. Yeah.
So I see him reaching to get a new microphone. Meanwhile, I understand that Rex isn't going to talk until we come on camera, so I yank the microphone out of his hand, throw mine onto the ground, very trying to be almost animated about it so everyone knows what's going on, and then I start talking into his microphone. Well, that's working. Now, as I'm talking and trying to describe what's on the screen for the scenics and all that, they're handing me a wired microphone. I'm trying to talk into both and pulling the one away just to see if, do they have this punched up yet? Nope, I don't hear myself. I'll keep talking here, try again. And right as we're about to come on the camera, I hear it's working. Hand the microphone over to Rex, and we're off and we're running. And I'm sitting there thinking,
save somebody's bacon on that deal.
Now, it just, like they don't need to know at home that anything was wrong. But to be honest, I stumbled a little bit more than I wanted to. I've been there before. Someone at home probably sat there and thought, boy, he sounds a little rusty today, but we were fine and it moved on. This is the kind of stuff that happens every single day. You'd rather everything go smoothly every single time. People don't need to know that stuff is going on. They shouldn't know what's going on, but that's part of the fun of being in this every single day.
Yeah. Too. So I was looking at your LinkedIn a little bit, seeing you were in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
Part of the Rams. We used to do work for a lady named Keely. I don't know if you...
I know Keely Fimbres.
Yeah.
She was a good friend of mine during my time there, yeah.
Yeah, so we did a lot of work, animation work. We were an animation company back then. We did a lot of work. So spent a lot of time down in St. Louis. But
I probably bumped into you at some point, or at least walked by you, because I was there every day.
The Greatest Show on Turf. That had to be pretty cool to be around that. That was when you were there, right?
Yep, that's when I was there. I think the two coolest, kind of greatest stories I ever covered in my career in terms of teams were this was technically before the Greatest Show on Turf, the 1999 Rams. They didn't really start calling them the Greatest Show on Turf until Mike Martz was the head coach, replacing Dick Vermeil. But this was the start of it. I mean, this was the team that won the Super Bowl. The Greatest Show on Turf team lost the Super Bowl to Tom Brady and the Patriots. That was Brady's first, and I was there for that as well. But 1999, the 1999 Rams, and to me the 2014 Royals are sort of the two, I don't know, kind of coolest teams I ever covered, because they both ended these massive droughts. And in the case of the 99 Rams, they'd gone from a 4-12 team to a 12-4 Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
In the case of the Kansas City Royals, it was expected that they were going to make a big jump in 2014. That was not the case necessarily with the Rams, although certainly the pieces were there. They had Marshall Faulk. We didn't know what Kurt Warner was going to be. That was a special team.
Yeah.
But the feeling in St. Louis in 99 into the early part of 2000, and the feeling in 2014 in Kansas City, and then again in 2015, were very similar. Just so much pride in the smaller market, unexpected team doing what they did, and a lot of, momentum. The Rams never got to the point where the Chiefs are at, where they were so good for so long that everybody got sick of them.
Yeah.
That's what's happened with the Chiefs.
Yeah,
the Rams, their window closed on them maybe quicker than they had hoped. And maybe the same thing for the Royals, although baseball's different. But because both of those teams weren't your household names or your perennial contenders, I think a lot of the country got behind both of those teams. But it started within the communities. There was so much joy and much just pure excitement with everyone, non-sports fans, sports fans, diehards, casual fans, that it brought community together. And that was really the similarity between both of those.
Yeah, the power of that.
Oh.
I remember 85. I remember, I graduated in 81 from high school. But being around in 85 when that happened, and it's like just how everybody felt.
Yeah.
It was an amazing thing, and to have that happen again was unbelievable.
It does amazing things for communities. That's true anywhere, by the way. I mean, but I think the difference is that when it happens in New York or LA or Chicago, something like that, they're now maybe for football, but in Chicago, but mostly in those big market cities, they have other teams. And so, if the Cubs go to a World Series, half the town or maybe 40% of the town doesn't care. If the Yankees go to the World Series, half or a little bit less that are Mets fans don't care. Same thing for, Dodgers, or probably much more so than the Angels, but you get the point.
Yeah.
In Kansas City, that's it.
Yeah.
And so there's no, it's one thing if KU or K-State make a deep run into, football playoff or Final Four or whatever it is, and then it's like, well, I don't like them, I do like them. That's what Kansas City does. But for the most part, everybody's on board if the Royals make a run or the Chiefs make a run, and so it truly brings everyone together.
Yeah, very, very exciting, fun. How did you get to Kansas City? Because you were in St. Louis, and then was it through?
We drove. I was kidding. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
You take the bullet train.
Take the bullet. Yeah, that eventually maybe that's going to come.
Yeah.
So I'd worked about 9.5 years in St. Louis, which ended up being my third and fourth jobs in television. My first two were in a small market in northern Wisconsin, and then Madison, Wisconsin. I get to St. Louis in 1998, the day after McGuire hit his 70th home run. So I missed that by a day essentially, and worked for the local Fox affiliate there in St. Louis, which was great because that was the TV station that was the home of the Rams, which I never heard any prideful slogans mentioned of being the home of the Rams until 1999 when I know I got there in 98 for part of the season, but there was no like pounding your chest that we were the home of the Rams in that 4-12 season. But once it was 12-4, we were there 7 days a week. If they were off and somebody stopped in to use the restroom, we were there to report on it live. I mean, it was like, I'm exaggerating by just a little bit. It was like you could not do any wrong in 1999. If it was going live from Rams Park, which was in Earth City, Missouri, on an off day and nothing was going on, that was the news still. So I got to do all that. At the end of 2004, I moved over to Fox Sports Midwest, January of '05. And that's where I started traveling with the St. Louis Cardinals. I'd already traveled with them for playoffs, covering them for the Fox affiliate.
Yeah.
So I'm doing 3 years of Fox Sports Midwest. I find out my last year there that Fox Sports Midwest was taking over the rights to Kansas City Royals broadcasts. There were two pieces that were really appealing to me about Kansas City. The second, and I don't mean to make it second because it's personal, is that we had family here.
Yeah.
My wife had grown up here and moved away. Her sister had grown up here and moved away. Her sister moved back here, got married to a guy here. They had kids. Those kids are now 29 and almost 27. So we were coming here from St. Louis for births, for birthday parties, for holidays.
So you were making trips up here
We were
all the
making
time.
trips up here probably 3 times a year. At least 3 times a year. So we were making that drive down I-70 all the time. So yes, it was going to be, we weren't coming here necessarily to be closer with family. That was going to be the icing on the cake, the bonus, and it was, because we'd never really lived in town with immediate family. But we were coming here because the job that I have right now in Kansas City, which I've had for 18 seasons, there were 3 of us with Fox Sports Midwest that split those responsibilities. So I didn't do every game. I worked year-round, but I might travel on a trip. I might not. I might host the pre- and post-game shows, but more often than not, I was the reporter. I come here, and I have the opportunity to do all of those things. And over the course of the last 18 years, of every televised game we've had, and I could add it up because I think it's 6.5 games or 7.5 games that I've missed in 18 years. That's not true. I think it's 3.5 games. Everything else that I missed was on assignment. Cooperstown for Buck O'Neill.
Oh, yeah.
Or September 11th, visiting troops in Kuwait while still working. So the only games I missed were 2 for a funeral, 2 for my daughter's high school graduation, and half a game for my son's graduation because we were in town and I left in the middle of a game. So I've missed 4.5 games, which means that in 18 years, I've done well over 99% of the games that we've had. I never had that opportunity, that type of repetition. I was almost coming off of the bench often in St. Louis. So came here, greatest move that I could have ever made professionally, personally. Our kids were 2 and 5 when we moved here, Brad. They're now 20 and almost 23. Yeah. And so it was life-changing for us.
Empty nester now, right?
Yeah, I don't know that there's ever such a thing, but yes, we are empty nesters now.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I say we're empty nesters, but our youngest is at K-State.
Yeah, they come back.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
For the most part.
It is. It's great. What do you like about Kansas City? So one of the things, there's kind of a rivalry between St. Louis and Kansas City, and I've never really gotten into that. But,
me neither.
But a lot of people, I think Kansas City is a great place. I think the people here are great. I don't have a lot of experience in St. Louis, other than working there a few times and stuff. But what do you love about Kansas City?
Well, I'll tell you what the whole St. Louis versus Kansas City thing to me is always silly, but I get it. It for the most part it's friendly. Yeah. Even though it can drive some people nuts, it's just like
the whole World Series thing,
Yeah, and you're never there are scars there that are never gonna heal, and mostly it's just built into people. Yeah. Right. And then for some families, it's just fun. It's kind of like a Mizzou KU thing. Yeah. Or KU Mizzou thing, whatever order I guess you want to put it in. But where you actually have to live together and figure it out, and it's fun. But we never had any issues living in St. Louis. St. Louis can be known, and people joke about this a lot. The first question you're going to get asked in St. Louis is, where did you go to high school, or where did you go to school? When they say, where did you go to school, they mean high school. And then you could figure out, all right, what neighborhood you grew up in. It could be a little bit of a status thing, a demographics thing. And so there's some bad in there. There's some of it's just like it's a small place, just like here, and, who do you know, that type of thing. Yeah. But there can be some of it's a stereotype of St. Louis being a little bit more exclusive, and that's really just meant, did you grow up here? Who do you know that we know? And if you didn't grow up there, you got to figure out a way to get in. And so that could be the knock on St. Louis, is that it could be, if you didn't grow up there, they don't really look at you as the same. Yeah. I never had that issue there. Going on,
because you didn't grow up there.
I didn't, but being on TV, not that anyone knew who I was when I started, but being on TV and meeting everybody and being on TV there. Yeah. At a time in my career where I was also covering not just Major League Baseball and NFL and NHL, but I was covering a lot of high school sports, meant that I had the great opportunity of walking into gyms and football fields in the inner city and in the wealthiest parts of the suburb, into rural towns, farm towns, and everything in between.
Yeah.
There is not a demographic that I didn't walk into, which means that when news happens in St. Louis, in any community, whether it's good stuff, bad stuff, you remember the stuff that happened in Ferguson, and that can be so hard for people to understand, well, I'm on this side, you're on this side, just like politics nowadays, that for me, it was really easy to understand what was going on through all of it because I'd been in every one of those communities. So it really shaped me for who I was. So whatever talk there is about St. Louis being more exclusive and hard to break in if you didn't grow up there, we didn't have that issue there because I was walking into every one of those communities, and I'd have people say, wait, so is it safe to go to East St. Louis? Of course it was safe. I mean, like anywhere else in this world, there are certain places that you shouldn't be at certain times of day, and that could be true in any part of the world and the country, and that doesn't have to be a city thing either. But for me, I was welcomed in with open arms everywhere I went. I could be sitting on the porch with the mom of a future NBA player in East St. Louis talking about life, and the next day, on and on.
Yeah.
With that said, come here to Kansas City and have, for the first time in my life, I realized that I had the job that I not just loved, but that had me in a spot where I'm like, I don't think I'm looking for the next thing anymore. So it enabled us to settle in here in a way of not looking at what's next. And so the focus became here. And when you add in, and it took a bunch of years, being in 2 World Series, and now suddenly everywhere you go, people are wanting to talk about baseball and the love of Kansas City. And so it was very easy to become a Kansas City. And while at the same time, our city right now, and I'm a proud Kansas City, and our city right now does not look like it did when I got here 18 years ago. This place is thriving, and I'm so proud of it. And so I don't have that attachment to St. Louis anymore. My attachment to St. Louis is those communities. My attachment to St. Louis is that my kids were born there. But we raised our kids here. We've watched Kansas City grow up at the same time as our kids have grown up. And so I have so much pride in wanting people to come here and experience our city, which of course they're going to do with the World Cup and everything else that's going on. When I hear people that move here, that are moving here because the technology industry or because of the opportunities here, and I feel like they're getting to do what I got to experience being a transplant here. So this place to me is extremely inclusive because everyone wants to. We love our city here as much as St. Louisans love their city, but it feels like in St. Louis they want to not keep it to themselves, but it's sort of like an inside thing. Like, hey, remember we used to do that?
Got to be a part of the club.
Yeah, and whereas here it's like we want more people to come and more people to come, and that's a bit of a gross exaggeration, I think, or stereotype, because I think in the end, both cities are a lot more similar than we want to give them credit for. We're similar size, similar pace, similar good people that'll look at you when you walk by them on the street and say hello. And that to me is important to me.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I don't know if you remember, you and I had met. I think this was after the Real Talk. We did the Real Talk things, and I remember the season had been shut down, and you were thinking, okay, I've got to find some new ways to generate some income.
Gosh,
Do you remember that time?
Oh my gosh!
Sorry to bring that up.
Yeah,
but I remember it because, and the reason I brought it up is because you've done such a good job of taking that moment and turning it around for you. I mean, can you talk about that a little bit? Because I remember it's like, we don't have games.
Yeah.
I don't remember why we were meeting, but you and I were talking about it, and it's like, I got to figure out my path forward, and you've done it.
I just had a memory that triggered in my head, though, well before that, and I think before we started the Real Talk, because I seem to remember chatting with you at an early fan fest. Like I was sitting out on a set, like, I don't know if it was in Overland Park or downtown, and talking about the business, and I think you probably were talking about Kevin Seitzer or some kind of connection. I don't know why there's something like just triggered of like an early conversation of meeting you. That just popped into my head. Has nothing to do with the question that you just asked.
Well, that's a good memory because I'm not sure I remember that.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like these little things pop up.
Yeah.
And at our age, we don't know where they come from. But that's one of the scariest times of my life in terms of professionally, because I've been really lucky in this crazy industry that I went into. I've been in TV for 31 years now. And it was the first time and the only time in my career where I had zero money coming in and I had no idea what to do. It was like you'd been fired without a job. And I know a lot of people have been in those positions. I've been lucky enough to have not been.
Yeah.
My fear always was, if I ever got fired or whenever that day came, what would I do? And that happened with the world changing overnight, like a lot of people. I don't know. The difference is that, as a guy that works 6 months a year and then is off 6 months a year.
Yeah.
All right. So this is 2020.
Yeah.
I had started my speaking business in 2017. It was still in the early stages, but that's what got me through a lot of the off seasons. Well, now it's March. I'm 1 month from the paycheck starting again. The speaking business has carried me through the off season. March hits, the season is going to be delayed. We don't know how long. And oh, by the way, no one's going to hire a speaker right now.
Yeah.
And we could do it virtually, but no one really is comfortable spending a lot of money right now because everyone's in the same boat. And it was just a survival thing.
Yeah.
And I had this idea, as I found myself probably begging for anyone's business, that no one, I realized really quickly, nobody was going to hire me. I was able to secure a little bit of sponsorship help with the podcast. So that at least brought a little bit of revenue, and that was it. And I decided to do two things, which I would do again and would recommend anyone do when they're in this type of situation. And the spirit of the decision was this: when your back's against the wall and you need a lot of help, instead of asking for help, double down and give help. See what you can do to help others, because when you elevate them in some form or another, they're going to elevate you. Or at the very minimum, you feel like you're making some progress, you're doing some good, instead of sitting there feeling sorry for yourself. And so I did two things. The first thing I did is I reached out to any business that I'd spoken to in my first couple of years of speaking, and offered to give their leadership teams a free 20-minute virtual talk, with the thought that they could probably use the pick-me-up because they're going through some stuff as well, and they're now all at home and they're losing their chemistry. So let me offer that. And if it does nothing other than help some people out, great. But what happened is, as the pandemic cleared, some of them came back and said, hey, we want to hire you, or we want to bring you back. Yes. And so it was a way to throw somebody else a life vest when they needed it. And then the other piece was, I took my podcast and I started to, I don't even know what we were doing at that point. If it was 2 days a week, 3 days a week, however many days a week it was, those were what was popping up on the iTunes and, everywhere you get your podcasts. But any day that we weren't doing one, I basically did one every single day, whether it was going to post on iTunes or not. And everything I did, iTunes or not, streamed live on Facebook, because that was bringing people together. And I thought if I could do 5 a week, one per day, and just highlight a business that maybe is struggling like I'm struggling, and just tell their story and let people get on these chat boards and just share their feelings and their emotions. And so that kind of helped me pass the time. It helped me network. It didn't generate any extra revenue, but hopefully it threw out some goodwill. And so the lesson really was just like, yes, we all, when we're down and out, we need the help. And that help will come from people that trust you and want to be able to lend a hand. But really, you create that by helping others.
Yeah. So I got to spend a day with Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you remember Zig, but so guy, Joe Calhoun is the guy's name.
Yeah, I know Joe.
So we went down to Dallas and spent a day with Zig. Joe did work with him. So I shot the interviews. But one of the things that Zig said, in Zig's voice, that was a bad Zig Ziglar impersonation. But he said, if you want to be successful, help somebody else be successful. That's exactly, it's so true. Why is that so hard for us? I mean,
I don't even want to say it's selfish. It's just, we're so focused on being successful that I think we sometimes are wired in a way that says if we're not moving the needle to make ourselves successful, we're going backwards.
Right.
But what if helping others gets you there
Yeah.
in some form or another. It's a great way to build trust with people, just to help them. And you know, you have to be discerning about it. I think that I've met enough people that say, take every meeting, say yes to everyone. Well, you can't do that if there aren't enough hours in the day. So you do need to be able to look at it with a critical eye. But you don't always need to know what you're going to get out of it. So if it's something that makes sense, somewhere you can provide value, somewhere that to me, it's what makes the world go round.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to switch gears just a little bit. I don't know if you know this, but I did the majority of the video for the Hall of Fame at Royals.
I don't know that I knew that.
Yeah. So Kurt Nelson worked with Kurt, and we had, George and all the guys here. I remember one of my favorite times was I got to have lunch with Denny Matthews and Fred White. And, it was just a really, really cool time. Yeah. But that was being able to experience 1985 and have all those guys in here. And Willie Wilson was probably one of my favorites. So great. I mean, hearing his story. Oh, yeah. You've probably heard all those stories, but
I've heard a lot of them, and they're always so animated and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but the story of George's of the pine tar from Willie's point of view. Have you heard that?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm asking if you've heard it, but hearing Willie tell that story, he goes, "Well, I see a guy come back," and it was just hilarious hearing those stories.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best part of all of this, and I don't know that I really understood that when I got into the television business or podcasting now as well. And I think let's just take it for podcasting, for instance. Anyone, if they're interested, should try out doing a podcast, because it's a great way to network. It's a great way to build relationships. It's a great way to...
You're doing a promo reel for me right now. You realize that?
I know that. I was actually about to throw in like a NASCAR style ad, like, if you were interested in real media.
Yeah.
But I thought, yes, that is a nice little promo reel for you. But my point, and if it helps build a little business, great too, is it's a unique way still at this point to be able to promote your business, your brand, or your services, or the successes of your services without even needing to say a whole lot. And so I think, to me, when you could do that through storytelling, that's what builds trust. That's what potentially builds business.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story to tell. Some are better than others.
Yeah.
Some are worse than others. Some of us are better storytellers than others. Some are worse storytellers than others. But I'm of the belief that if you give me someone's story, I could find some meaning in it, which means that there's always a story to tell.
I agree with that 100%. Obviously, I would. I think about some of the stories that you come across, and I wrote down a list of guys, and we'll kind of go through that. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is the balance, the work-life balance. I mean, you must have an incredible wife.
Yeah.
I don't
know how she puts up with it.
Well, and I know a little bit about it just because I've talked to Kevin a lot about it, and it's when you're just like them. I mean, you're gone as much as they are. How do you do that?
Well, there's no secret sauce or magic answer. I mean, there is some secret sauce to it, but I'll start with this, at least for my industry. And mine is not the only one. I would imagine anyone that is working crazy hours. By the way, I don't work more than the next person that works their butt off. Everybody says, not everybody, but a lot of people say, "Oh my gosh, when do you stop? You're constantly working." Well, so are a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mine may be seen by more because of the nature of the platform that I have.
Right.
I'm not trying to diminish the work I'm doing. I'm saying a lot of other people figure this out as well. I think the difference between my profession, your profession to an extent, but anyone that is working odd hours, anyone that is working hours that don't necessarily have them going to bed with everyone else in the house, takes something, whatever that secret sauce is, to make it work. So on the surface, I start always by saying this. There are really only three options in my business if you have, a spouse or a significant other. You either split, you find a new profession, or you figure it out. And we figured it out. I don't know when we figured it out, but we've had it figured out for a lot of years. And it was an evolution. I can remember early on, I remember being in St. Louis around when we got married, which was 1999. It would have been 99 or 2000. We were newlyweds, living in an apartment, no kids, no pets or anything yet. And I got a call last minute to go out of town for the weekend to Memphis because St. Louis University the basketball team, the Billikens, had upset like the number 2 seed in the country in the quarterfinals of the Conference USA Basketball Championship. And if they won 2 more games, they were going to go to the tournament, which was unexpected. And suddenly the news desk says to me, we need you and a photographer to drive to Memphis and spend the weekend there. And you would have thought that I had dropped something on my wife's lap that was the worst thing that had ever happened for me to just suddenly have to pick up and I look at that now and she would be like, when are you getting back? Okay, fine. You know, like, I mean, we do this every day.
Yeah.
This is our life. And so I look at where that started and where it's at now. And in between, waking up earlier than I wanted to just spend 5 minutes driving the kids to school and being in the carpool line, knowing that at that age when they were younger, that by the time I got home from the stadium, every other week when I was home, they were already sleeping.
Yeah.
Those are the 5 minutes I had per day with my kids. And you just figure it out over time or you don't. And this is the only way that we know. And so work-life balance, look, first of all, Brad, we're of a generation where we didn't know such a thing existed.
Yeah.
All right, no one in our generation, if you are Gen X or a boomer, we were never offered that option.
Yeah.
It's very hard to deprogram what we were born or raised on.
It's very true.
All right, a lot of us were raised as latchkey kids. Go figure it out and fend for yourself. Make your lunch, get home, do your chores, do your homework, see you when I get home. I would never ask anyone to do what we did in terms of millennials and certainly Gen Z. But you know what? They didn't, I'm going off on a tangent here, but they didn't grow up the way we did. And I think we grew up better than they did because we didn't have the distractions of social media and everything that came with that. We didn't have the lesser attention spans. Yes, we went outside and we ran around and then occasionally we played video games. It's just a different world now.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, all the athletes I'm covering all grew up that way too. This is where we're at. They need work-life balance because they've already been through so much from a mental health standpoint. We didn't even know anything like that existed.
Yeah, right.
With that said, I think that, and I tell this to leaders all the time when I'm on stage, that we as leaders or older generation, we need to do a good job of meeting them where they're at. I know we use that expression a lot because it's a good one. And when we do meet them where they're at, one, they're going to come and learn from us. And two, we might learn a little bit from them, meaning, hey, maybe every now and then, Brad and Joel should unplug a little bit, and the world's going to be okay. We're going to be fine, as much as it feels like we're only wired to work.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, you mentioned being empty nesters now, trying to enjoy some more free time with my wife, trying to be able to take advantage of those opportunities when I'm not doing anything. Which, by the way, I could do this 24 hours a day, and it's not, there's not enough time in the day.
Right.
I want to be working every single moment and just trying to figure out when can I pull back. When can I pull back and say, you know what, the business will be okay today. Yeah. Everything's going to be okay today, and just try to figure that.
It's a scary thought right there.
Well, it is, but you know what?
Carly's in there going, yep. Listen to him.
Yeah, but you know what? It always is okay.
Yeah.
It always is okay because we know what we're doing, and you know, like as we're recording this right now, I'm going to take pretty much all of December off, and how much work am I going to do? We're going to disappear for a month. I'm going to try to do as little as possible. I know I'm going to do some.
Yeah.
I need to do some. But I'm also of the belief that when I resurface after a month, the world's going to be fine. You know, like it's still going to be there.
And you'll be refreshed.
And I'll be refreshed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and this is what a lot of people probably, you get asked this all the time, but you know, the Salvy splash. Okay, you pretty much started a trend that's happening all over MLB. Is that correct? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. First off, it would surprise people.
I see guys doing it all the time.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it started with the Royals or not, and when you say you, that's really Salvy, but. I know. I'm guilty by association.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me explain how all this goes.
Yeah.
First off, and Kurt Nelson has the info on this because I told him this one day, and of course, being Kurt, the director of the Royals Hall of Fame, he looked up all the information. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But
that sounds very Kurt.
But I am guessing somewhere around 2010, maybe 11. there was a game. I mean, he found it, but there was a
That's
game.
early.
It might have been a little bit later. It
Yeah.
could have been like 12. Actually, it wasn't 10 or 11. It would have been like 12. Anyway, there was a game. It was a getaway night, and we were flying to St. Louis afterwards. The reason why I remember is because I still can remember the back of like my head sticking to my neck because there was Gatorade on it.
Oh, yeah.
And like my neck was sticky, and it was a little bit uncomfortable sitting on the plane. And I just remember
You
thinking,
didn't even get to take a shower or anything, huh?
no, there's nowhere to take a shower. The only time I've ever taken a shower after one of those splashes is after the Royals won the wild card, and I knew that there was a chance they might clinch, and I knew we were going to have to hop on a plane right afterwards to go to Anaheim if they won. And so I brought another suit and a towel and a toiletry kit, and I was able to find that there was a shower on the office level in a bathroom at Kauffman Stadium that nobody ever uses in the executive offices,
Yeah.
probably like down the hall from the GM and everybody like that. And when all the celebration ended that night with the wild card, I went up, showered, changed, put all of my champagne-soaked suit and everything in a big industrial-sized garbage bag, tied it up, went downstairs, met my family. They were all outside, waiting for me. So this is 11 years ago. So
Yeah.
my kids at that point are 9 and 12, or something like that.
Yeah.
And say goodbye to them, hand them the dirty clothes, hop on a plane, go to Anaheim for that sweep. But that's the only time I ever showered after one of those. But on this night, it was the first time it ever happened, and I didn't get doused head to toe, but I got enough that I had the sticky neck. Alex Gordon had done it. Alex Gordon did the first ever Salvy splash.
Oh,
and
did
Kurt,
not know that.
Yeah, Kurt was able to. The reason why I remember that it was St. Louis the next day was because I just remember thinking, gosh, this is so uncomfortable. Like, my neck's all sticky and gross, but at least it's a quick 40-minute flight. And I remember Alex Gordon getting on the plane and looking at me as he was walking by me with his sly, kind of subtle grin that if anybody knows Alex knows he has, because he's a prankster, but very low-key about it. And he goes, did I get you with that bucket? As he walked by me and just kind of smiling. I'm like, yeah, you did. Little did I realize what was coming. The Salvy splash, I've never had any say in it. My whole thing is if I can avoid getting dunked, I will. But if they want me getting dunked, I will. And whatever I can do to ensure that they can do what they want to do, meaning that this is their moment.
Yeah.
I don't, we just did high fives when we were kids to celebrate stuff,
Yeah.
right? But this is the way they celebrate. And, if you think back to, like, really, the
Yeah.
Gatorade bucket dump was something that we were seeing all the time in NFL after a big game.
Yeah.
They dumped the
But
big
after they won
cooler
a
on the Super
championship
Bowl
or
or something
game,
like that.
Yeah.
Then you started seeing all the teams doing it. I don't know who started it. I just think that teams have changed over the years and done different things, and some teams do it sometimes, some teams do it every game, and the Royals are that team that just kept on doing it. And the guy that was the central figure in all of it, even though he didn't do the first one, is Salvador Perez, obviously. And so he's still here.
Yeah.
And if you really watch the Salvy splashes now, he dumps the bucket, I don't know, maybe 20% of the time, 25%
Yeah.
of the time.
Bobby's the one that's.
And then Bobby always has someone with him
Yeah.
to do it. And when MJ was up, it was usually MJ Melendez. If it's not MJ, it's usually like a Kyle Isbell. He'll recruit someone else to help him with it. Salvy would be the one to tell you, I don't need help. I can do it on my own. I'm big enough. But he's let those guys do it now. The only two things I've seen over the years is this, along with the nonstop questions about dry cleaning and how many
Yeah.
suits I've ruined. That's standard. If somebody says to me, "Hey, I got a question for you," I know exactly what it is every
Yeah.
single time. And then you want to just honor that question,
Yeah.
because they don't realize that I've been asked that question 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And we just have fun with it because it's something that connects people.
Yeah.
The thing about this Salvy splash is I look up into the stands, and once I got over the fact, once my ego got over the fact, Brad, that in the first couple of years of it, no one ever said to me, well, I loved the questions you asked in that interview last night. It was only, hey, I watched that interview last night, and I'm thinking, ooh, what did they like? that splash, man, that looked really cold. But it brings people joy. It brings people personality. In a world that we live in of cliches and take one game at a time, for those brief few moments, you're seeing that suspended adolescence. You're seeing them act like kids the way we act like kids in some form or another. You're seeing amidst all of the pressure, you're seeing them exhale, celebrate, have some fun, and the fans are in on it. So I'm just the caretaker of it. I've never orchestrated it. I've never told anybody to do it or not do it, with one exception, and I'll give you that one in a moment. But I know this much. If I request Salvador Perez nowadays to be my star of the game, I am not getting out of there dry.
Yeah,
because Salvy's whole thing is, I mean, he's never said this to me, but it's very obvious that if I'm going down, you're going down with me. And that's fine, because it makes for it. I think that he and I have this chemistry that fans are used to.
Yeah. And
I don't ever want to fight that. There was a year early on in all of these shenanigans, 13, 14, 15, I don't know what it was, where we're in Seattle. And it's early in a road trip, meaning I think we had 2 more cities to go. So it's like game 1 of 9 or game 2 of 10, something. And I'm wearing a lighter color coat, and I'm interviewing somebody. And I don't know why Salvy didn't take the bucket. Instead, he took cups, which is the worst. I'd never experienced this before. Cups are much worse than a bucket, because you can avoid a bucket, but cups...
You can pour it right on your head.
No, he was going from long range.
Oh.
So now that's like getting raindrops splattered all over your windshield. Well, he's tossing blue Gatorade out of cups that night, and my light coat is just splattered with like blue.
Oh, man.
So I brought it into the dry cleaning, which is a challenge on the road too, because you got to make sure wherever you bring it in, there's enough days to get it back before you move on to the next city. So I did that, and I mentioned something to the Royals vice president of media relations at the time, Mike Swanson. I said, hey, can you just tell Salvy, like, if you're going to do it, just do the bucket, or don't toss that, because, you know, I got to get this. And Salvy has never let me live that down.
Oh, man.
Any chance he gets to this day, he'll say, oh, Joel says it's fine. No, because 2 times he complained. I'm like, 2? It was 1. So, okay, but he's already exaggerating that. We get back to the 1. And yes, I wasn't really complaining. It was just like, hey, if we could manage this. And I realized, whatever. It all comes out, by the way, in the dry cleaning. It all works out. And who else in the so while other teams stopped doing it or went on to do other things, or other teams will only do it in specific situations. Because last year I got Jonathan India, his first Salvy splash. You know, he's new with the Royals, and he was so shocked by it. Not that he hadn't received one in Cincinnati, but it was that with Cincinnati they saved it for the biggest games or a walk-off. And for the Royals, it's like
every win.
At least every win at home. They've stopped doing it on the road. And then every now and then they'll break it out on the road, and that catches me off guard. But it's just fun, Brad. I mean, if that's what people are going to know me as, if that's the number one thing people are going to know me as, and I get to be connected to a future Hall of Famer for having some fun, bring it on.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, Salvy, you talk about Salvy, it's like I have a hard time understanding him. Have you had to learn how to, like...
I just know all of their accents and all their demeanors, and then, you know, when he is speaking. And look, sometimes in the moment, you know, you're rushed, you're emotional, and all of that, some stuff can get lost. I'll try to repeat back a little bit of what they say if I think that people might not be understanding it. My Spanish is terrible. Try to work on it a little bit every day. I don't know that I'm any better. I'd be scared to speak Spanish in front of anybody, but I'm pretty good at understanding the, you know, some of the accents, and a little bit of the just the dialect could be a little bit different from Venezuela to Dominican to Puerto Rico. And just having been around it so long, I generally understand those guys and want to help in explaining it a little bit better. And then even if you don't understand everything, like I'm just so impressed with any of these guys that are speaking a second language, that have the courage to come out there and do that without a translator. I don't begrudge anyone that has the translator, because I'd want one too. But my belief, and I talk a lot about this one in my speaking business, is that if you can make life easier on people, then they'll come back to you. And so it's my goal to build up enough of a relationship and a safety net for them that they're comfortable speaking English with me. And if you don't understand 100% of it, hopefully you see the personality, as you did for me, Yordano Ventura, because personality, you know, one of the reasons why everybody loves Salvy so much is even if you don't understand 100% of what he says every single time, you understand the personality, you understand the smile, you understand the laugh, you understand the giving, and he has that, which is all universal languages.
That whole thing he did with the kids, that was an amazing thing.
Yeah, and it's like, just pure him.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine being the kid that Salvy shows up at his house and plays?
Because every one of us, if we played sports as a kid, can relate to the star that you grew up on TV watching suddenly wandering into your neighborhood onto your street and saying, "Hey guys, want to play?" Like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But we all can visualize and fantasize about what that would have been like for an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old us.
Yeah. Rusty Kuntz used to live across the street from us.
The best.
And I remember, this is a quick little story, but he had just moved in. Him and his wife just moved in. And so we were outside playing catch, and I didn't even know he had moved in, and he saw us playing catch, and he came over and played catch with us. And then for a long time after that, he would come out in the afternoons and play catch with the boys.
I'm not surprised by that.
And he was, we just loved him so much.
Just a normal guy.
Away. Yeah. But it's like, wow, we're playing catch with Rusty Kuntz. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then he became, the first
kind of a legend
coach
in his own right.
Yeah.
A legend in his own right. I mean, well, and the smartest baseball man I've ever been around.
Yeah, we have a hard time stealing since he's left, I feel like.
Well, he's never worked with a guy that so badly wanted to not be in the big leagues. And I say that he loved the big leagues, of course.
Yeah.
I don't mean to speak for Rusty, but I know Rusty well. Rusty was a former player, a longtime coach.
Yeah.
Truly the smartest baseball man. He and Tony La Russa are the two smartest baseball men I've ever been around. I learned so much from both of them. But Tony could be tough. Rusty, the nicest guy in the world that you could ever meet. But he just wanted to teach. And, he'd been in the big leagues so long that it felt like every year he wanted to just say, I don't want to coach first anymore. I want to go back to the minors. Well, that's considered a lower job than being in the big leagues. But he loves teaching so much that's all he wanted to do. So when I say that I've never met anyone that so badly didn't want to be in the big leagues, it's because he wanted to be the one building the foundation for those that made it there. I mean, truly one of the great teachers and personalities that I've ever met in the game.
Well, didn't he help Jack?
He helped Jack Caglione, and that's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
But
he did a good job in the outfield this year.
He did a good job, and he'll continue to get better with that. But I think that when you look at the greatest project that Rusty Kuntz ever had, it's Alex Gordon. Alex Gordon becomes a Royals Hall of Famer and a perennial Gold Glover and one of the greatest left fielders of his generation because of the tutelage of Rusty Kuntz helping convert him from third base to the outfield while they were in Omaha. Rusty was not on the Royals coaching staff at that point. He had, I think, gone back to the minors. Then he came back again.
Yeah.
Now he's back minors, and I suspect that'll be. I'm sure there'll always be times they keep trying to pull him out. But, those coaches, you talked earlier in the podcast about the hours that we all work.
Yes.
No one works the hours of those coaches and the training staff and the clubhouse attendants.
Yeah.
Those three groups and the TV truck, the guys in the TV truck. Those guys work more than the players, work more than the broadcasters. They're the ones that are working the 12, 15-hour days.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, Rusty's, I don't know, probably somewhere around 70 or give or take. And, if you're lucky enough to be at a point where, in his case, I would think, where you want to spend more time with the family and the kids and the grandkids, or the kid and the grandkid, and in his case, and, enjoy life while still getting to teach.
Yeah.
He deserves that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book.
Yeah.
Just give me a little run. Small ball, big results. When did you get the idea? I'm going to write a book, and it's been pretty successful. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know. I don't know how successful or not, because I've chosen not to pay too much attention to it, which was not the case when that came out. And then there was a second one too, and for the first week you're refreshing just to see where it's at on Amazon every minute.
Yeah.
Then it becomes every hour. Then it becomes at once a day, and eventually, I think the last time I looked was 3 months ago or something like that. This was all part of a master plan. Starting my speaking business was never part of any plan. I stumbled into it accidentally in the winter of 2016-17. Everybody and their mother said to me that knew anything about speaking that I think you could start a business and speakers write books.
Right.
It's a big business card, on and on and on.
Right.
Well, I met with someone trying to get advice on writing a book, because I didn't think that writing a book about the Royals winning a world championship a year and a half after they won it was going to get me speeches or really provide any value for anyone.
Dayton had done that too,
Dayton
right?
and enough people had done that.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be me. I didn't think writing a book about how to become a television broadcaster would have too much of a broad audience. And so I met with someone, and the advice I got was start a podcast instead. I'm like, oh, really? Why? Well, and this, this is now early 17. It's not a new thing, but not everybody had a podcast at that point.
Not like it is now.
Not like it is now. And so she said to me 4 reasons. One, the easy and obvious one is you already interview people for a living. Okay. She says, 2, it'll be a great way to network and meet people. Check. 3, it'll be a great way to expand your brand beyond baseball, so don't make it a baseball podcast. And while I called it Rounding the Bases, and I had some baseball themes in there, meaning there are no expected questions except for 3, my baseball-themed questions. What's the biggest home run you've hit in your career? I had to say career because everybody was saying marrying their spouse, which was nice, but it wasn't a wedding advice or a marriage advice or a relationship show. 2, what's the biggest swing and miss you've taken, and what did you learn from it? And 3, and this will lead me to the book, what is small ball? I thought the Royals won that championship by playing small ball.
Right.
Could small ball in some way be a metaphor for the secret sauce? I mentioned secret sauce before. Could it be a metaphor for the secret sauce to culture, to building more successful teams? What are the little things in your world? And so I started asking those 3 questions, and I would explain it. It's kind of a culture question. And then eventually I said, what are the little things in your world that add up to big results? And so from that came the book, Small Ball, Big Results. I wrote that and self-published it during the pandemic, or at least it came out about November-ish or so of 2020. So that was all a pandemic product. And I structured that book in a way that every chapter was the inning of a baseball game.
Yeah.
And there was a top half of the inning and a bottom half of the inning. And we went extra innings because I had more stuff to write in there. And I think it went 13 innings. And there was a rain delay in there with a story about Salvador Perez. And there was a 7th inning stretch in there with another story. And every chapter was a topic, a small ball topic. So one was on building trust. Mm-hmm. And the top half of the inning would be a baseball story. And the bottom half of the inning would be a business story. And so there's a trust story on Albert Pujols and a business story from, I think, maybe the CEO at the time of Locked In, or they're on and on.
Yeah.
So that did well. And then in 2024, February of 25, so less than a year ago, I did a second version, which was Small Ball, Big Dreams. Similar concept, but in this one, just trying to be a little creative with it. Instead of every chapter being an inning, and in every chapter being a subject, a small ball subject, these were just grit and resilience stories about how people got there. Because I thought one of the number one topics I talk about with any athlete along the way, and certainly when they make their big league debut, has to do with what their dreams as kids were growing up. And it never plays out the same way. The path for Alex Gordon was never supposed to go through left field or turn into left field.
Right.
The path for Lorenzo Cain, who is chapter 1 in Small Ball, Big Dreams, is about a guy that did not start playing organized baseball until high school and had no idea what the draft was. And he'd go on to be one of the greatest players in Royals history, and a world champion and an American League Championship Series MVP, and on and on. To Freddie Fermin, a guy that just desperately had this dream, but nobody was interested, and ultimately ends up becoming Salvador Perez's backup and one of the most respected and hardest working guys. To the story of Susan Waldman, the now longtime Yankees announcer, who was the first female broadcast personality on New York sports radio, and then became their baseball beat writer on radio, or beat reporter on radio, covering the Mets and the Yankees, and being blackballed out of every single press box because she was the only woman there, and getting death threats as she went into the Yankees booth, and cops needing to escort her to the car. Wow. And she knew that if her car had been turned on already when she got to the parking lot, that there had been a threat against her, and they were making sure there were no bombs.
No kidding. Wow.
So, just a lot of inspiration in this book. And it was funny. I did a chapter on my mom for this book because my mom, who's retired now, was, and I told the story to Susan Waldman one day at Yankee Stadium, and she completed the sentence for me. I said, my mom was told graduating from college in the 60s that you could only be one of two things as a woman coming out of school. You could be, and Susan interrupted me right away, a teacher or a nurse. I'm like, oh, you got the same thing? And she said, yes, but I ended up going into Broadway instead. My mom was a teacher, music teacher, and eventually went back to junior college to become a computer programmer, or what we now call a coder, and climbed the ranks for a company that eventually was bought by a major bank, which was then another big bank, and then in a bigger bank. And she's traveling the world in leadership with teams all over the globe. And so Susan had the same path, but hers started as she was on Broadway, and she loved sports. So because she loved sports and thought she could get into games for free with her voice, she was offering to sing the anthem at baseball games.
Wow.
Well, that made her a lot of connections.
Yeah.
And eventually she gets into the sports world because she didn't want to be the typecast mom on every Broadway show as she got older. And now she's in the Sports Radio Hall of Fame, or Radio Hall of Fame, something like that. Legendary Yankees announcer. So the book's full of a lot of that, and just inspirational stories of different paths of how people got there and the similarities and the differences.
A couple more questions.
Yeah.
We're about done. I wanted to ask you, well, first about Bobby. Mm-hmm. When Bobby gets interviewed, it's like he doesn't want to.
No.
It feels like he doesn't want to give you the answer. He's got a kind of a canned answer. It's kind of like Pat on National. Yeah. But you do a good job of trying to say, give me something here. That's got to be challenging.
It's a challenge. It's not a personal thing.
Yeah.
He is a delightful guy to talk to. He is as respectful.
I've directed him. He's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's as respectful as they come.
Yeah.
Everything out of his mouth is yes sir, no sir. He was raised right. His wife the same way.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal people, and he also happens to be one of the most talented players on the planet.
Right.
I think that my business is. It would be great if every single person had Vinny Pasquantino or Salvador Perez's personality.
He's the next one I'm going to mention.
Well, I'll get to him in a minute then.
Yeah.
But if everybody had that personality, you wouldn't notice the bigger ones. I just think that what you see from Bobby is he is very locked in at every single moment. He's not going to say no. He's gracious every single time.
Yeah.
But he is going to be most comfortable, and this is the way he was raised, if the excitement and the personality is shown by highlighting someone else. He's just the ultimate guy that would love for everyone else to get the attention.
Which is awesome.
It's great. It just means that I've got to challenge myself to put him in the right spot to answer these questions. It's a strategy thing. I know
you got to think about what you're going to ask him. Then
you got to work a little more with him, and that's okay. That's part of the profession.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to avoid the cliches every single time. But what I want to be able to do is, can I capture his emotion? Can I capture the work ethic that goes into it? So it's a game. It's a game, a little bit of a game of cat and mouse that he is trying to deflect, which says so much about him.
Yes.
And I'm trying to say, yeah, I get that. I respect that. But I need to know more about you.
Yeah.
And so how do you get there? And that's the cat and mouse of it every single time. And it's fun.
We did some social media shorts with Community America with Vinny and Bobby, actually, but Vinny was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, he was born for this. He'll be on television for the rest of his career whenever baseball ends.
Yeah, and just the personality, and so we had a teleprompter there. He's doing his lines, and messes up, and it's like, oh. And just lets it fly, and everybody's just dying laughing. It's like, it was so fun. Yeah,
he relishes in those moments, whereas Bobby is just going to keep it really close and oh darn, let's do it again.
Yeah,
and it's a reminder that there are different ways to get there, right? All right, Bobby's talent alone speaks for itself. Vinny's got a lot of talent too. If Vinny were to act like Bobby, he would be uncomfortable. If Bobby were to act like Vinny, he would be uncomfortable. We need to be able to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And so Vinny is fearless with the personality. He's here at the right time in a generation where that generation's all about branding, all about putting themselves out there. Vinny's personality 10 years ago would have still played, but he would have had to negotiate or wrestle with, are you looking for all the attention? It's supposed to be about the team. Bobby's more old school that way. We live in a generation of TikTok and Instagram Reels. And even if you look at Bobby Witt Jr.'s, all of his social media feeds, everything he does is put out there. Everything right now that we do is being shared with others. That's the generation that we're in right now. But he's still true to who he is. Vinny's still true to who he is.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder that you have to be yourself. But Vinny was made for every bit of this. He is as good as it comes.
It was great seeing him on the World Series broadcast.
Yeah.
You know, he
Right, he could be working in TV right now if his baseball career came to an end tomorrow, and I hope that it comes to an end in 15 years from now, because he's got a whole big career ahead of him, and he's a heck of a player. And he works hard and all the things. He can hit. He's working on his defense. He's a good leader, all these things. But whenever it ends, Vinny can slide right into the TV or broadcast booth or into the studio and on the set, just like Jeff Francoeur did. He's got that kind of personality.
Yeah. He's on the national broadcast now, isn't he? He's done a really good job.
Yeah, Frenchie's unbelievable. And we knew that from day one. Some guys will surprise you along the way. Oh, I didn't know that he had that in him. Jeremy Guthrie's doing stuff with us now.
Yeah.
Eric Hosmer's starting to do a little bit. Those guys, you knew that those guys were born for this as well. But, I mean, Vinny could have been doing this years ago.
No brainer, huh?
Yep.
Well, I want to go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate you being on here,
Of course.
Joel.
It's great to be with you.
I could keep going for a couple hours right now. This is a lot of fun. How would somebody, like if somebody wanted to reach out and they wanted to hire you to speak, get the book, give us all the 9-1 or the 411 on all that.
I think that the easiest one-stop shop is my website, which is joelgoldbergmedia.com. And you could reach me anywhere on social media. LinkedIn's a great way to reach me. I'm easy to find there, and I'll see messages that come in there. And if they're not like, the messages we receive every day of, are you looking to build more of your podcast, or can I make you a song for your podcast? All these things. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't say I wanted this. Are you looking to publish a book? I already published 2 of them. But if somebody wants to get a hold of me, that's a good way, or just the website, joelgoldbergmedia.com, because within there, there's, the video reel if you want to see a little bit of what it looks like. There's the testimonials, there's the information, there's, all the content too. And we live in a content world, so I'm pushing out a lot of newsletters and a lot of inspirational stories and all these type of things, and the podcast, of course. So it's all there.
Yeah. So they could go there and find you. The last thing I always ask everybody to do. So it's In a World with Real Media. And so this kind of started with this fun thing that I was the voice of the Miami Heat for 4 years. I don't know if
I don't know that I knew that.
So I could do this movie
like
voice
Alonzo Mourning days, or?
Well, it was the Dwayne Wade era. At the end. With LeBron, and so I have a really good buddy who runs the Heat television network, and we would play golf together. And so we'd go on these golf trips, and I do this in a world like this, joking. So he calls me up one day and says, "Hey, I want you to audition to be the game opening voice for the Heat."
Wow.
I'm like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "No, I'm really serious." I'm like, "Whatever." So I ended up doing it, and I was that voice for 4 years.
Wow.
So now that's where In a World with Real Media came from, is the In a World. So I want you to do your movie voice.
Okay.
Can you do one? So get real close. Well, I didn't even tell you how to do it.
Let's come right down here. Right?
Yeah. So In a World with Real Media.
Yeah. And then where am I going with that? Wherever? Or
wherever you want to go.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. In a world of real media, there is no better place than hanging out with Brad Burrow for Real Talk. It used to be called Real Talk. It's still always Real Talk with Joel and Brad. I don't know. See, you got it better than me.
Well, this could be the start of a new podcast. Who knows?
This for Real Talk with Brad Burrow and Joel Goldberg. I don't know.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on, Joel. This is awesome.
You're
I can't believe
welcome.
we've waited so long to do
I know.
this, man.
Well,
it's like, this is awesome.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. It is In a World with Real Media. And be sure to share this. We're going to put this out, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that people can learn from this. But follow us, share us, tell people about us. We look forward to doing more of this, and we'll see you next time.
This has been In a World with Real Media. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to subscribe on iTunes and follow Real Media on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn so you never miss an episode.